Christmas in Hollis from Run DMC. Welcome to the Rise Weekly Review for December 7th through December 14th, 2020. Our top story involves a multiple shooting in East Chicago, Indiana on Tuesday, and what is part of what local news media have described as a wave of East Chicago violence. Around 6 p.m. in the evening, officers responded to reports of shot fired near the 3500 block of Guthrie. Upon arrival, police found a teen lying on the ground unconscious but breathing. The teen, identified as 17-year-old Jaden Brown, was struck by gunfire and taken to an area hospital where he was pronounced dead around 7:55 p.m. Police also found two other men in an apartment near the scene who had also been shot multiple times. The two men were also taken to a hospital and both were pronounced in critical condition. Police claim to have found 3 handguns and numerous shell casings in the apartment. The investigation into the shooting is ongoing, and police are asking anyone with information to contact Detective Luis Semidi at 219-391-8318 or via email at lsemidi@eastchicago.com. Earlier in the day, around 6:10 a.m. on Tuesday, another man was found shot to death near the 3600 block of Michigan Court near the northern part of the harbor in East Chicago. The man was identified as 31-year-old Max Reed from Maryville. Police found him unresponsive at the scene with a gunshot wound to his head. A man identified as 22-year-old Tyree K. Williams was later taken into custody and charged on Friday for the murder. On Friday, a South Chicago man was killed near a commercial area of South Shore. Around 1 p.m., a 24-year-old Rakeem Christmas was walking near the 2000 block of East 71st Street when someone drove up in a white Cadillac and someone opened fire. Christmas was struck in the arm and leg. A second person, only identified as an 18-year-old, was also struck in the backside. Both were taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center, where Christmas was pronounced dead. The second man was last listed in good condition. It is unclear whether the two knew each other or who the intended target was. Anyone with information on Chicago crimes is asked to leave a tip at cpdtip.com. On Saturday, a 23-year-old was also killed in South Shore near Jackson Park. The man, identified as David Green Jr., was near 68th and Cornell when a light-colored car pulled up and someone inside began firing shots. The man was struck multiple times in the hip, arm, and shoulder. He was taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. On Thursday, a 24-year-old man was shot in South Chicago. The man was sitting in a vehicle around 12:10 p.m. near 80th and Manistee when a white SUV pulled alongside him. Someone in the vehicle then began opening fire, hitting the man in the shoulder. He was taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center, where he was last reported in serious condition. Also on Thursday, a 27-year-old man was shot in Hegewisch. According to police, the man was leaving a house party around 7:30 a.m. near 134th and Avenue O when he got into an argument with someone. They said someone then began opening fire and struck the man in the thigh. Family members were reportedly driving the man to the hospital when police stopped them. After noticing the man was wounded with a gunshot, they escorted him to Franciscan Health Hospital in Hammond, Indiana. The man was last reported in good condition. In other news on Thursday, a man was charged with dismembering a human body during a July incident in South Shore. On July 23rd, responding to a call at an apartment on the 7400 block of South Chappelle for a well-being check, police found the decapitated body of a woman. Police saw a man running out of the apartment from the kitchen but were not able to catch him. The woman, identified as 61-year-old Kamiko Armstrong, was found headless, wrapped in plastic and bedding. A handsaw was found in the bedroom along with documents in Bryant's name. The medical examiners report that the dismembering of the body likely took place after the death. Bryant, who has a previous criminal record but none for violent incidents, allegedly told officers he did not kill the woman but dismembered her body after she died to dispose of it. Bryant has been ordered held without bail and is expected back in court in early January. On Monday, the 21st, the man was found dead inside a burning vehicle in Hegewisch. Around 5:30 a.m., firefighters were called to the scene of a fire in a garage on 129th and Exchange. After putting out the fire, firefighters discovered a dead body in the vehicle. The cause of death has not yet been released, and no further information has been provided. On Thursday, news broke of the death from COVID-19 of a paramedic stationed out of the fire station in South Deering. 55-year-old Robert Truvilian passed away after battling COVID for over a month. He joined the department in 2000 and was in charge of Ambulance 71. Truvilian was also helping to mentor youth in Inglewood. He was known as a calming presence in the department.
I get on my knees to pray that Rob would come through this.
It broke my heart this morning that he provided to the citizens of Chicago. I mean, he treated everyone as if it was his family member.
Great mentor, great friend, go way out of his way to help anybody. And it's just the type of man he was. We miss you, brother. We love you, and we got it from here.
He is the third active duty CFD member to pass away from COVID. Colleagues of Trevelyan set up a GoFundMe for him while he was being treated to provide assistance to the family. For those interested in making donations, you can follow the GoFundMe link at the bottom of the page. The news of Trevelyan's death came a day after emails released from former U.S. Health and Human Services Advisor Paul Alexander showed Trump administration officials pushing a herd immunity strategy for stopping COVID-19. Alexander, who was a top Trump appointee, was seen repeatedly urging U.S. health officials to adopt a herd immunity strategy and urge people to get infected with COVID. Herd immunity is an idea that if the majority of people become infected with a virus, they will eventually develop a resistance and the virus spread will eventually end. However, to achieve herd immunity, up to 50 to 90% of a population needs to become infected. Critics have slammed the idea as it could potentially result in millions of U.S. deaths. However, conservative politicians like Trump have been pushing the claim that by pushing healthy younger people and children to get infected, they can reopen U.S. businesses faster. However, critics also argue that many younger people have also died from COVID infections. On Saturday, the King of Sweden, that was largely touted by conservatives as an example of herd immunity, issued an apology and claimed that their hands-off approach to COVID had failed.
Nej, men det är väl helt enkelt att vi har jag anser vi har misslyckats. Vi är ändå det är ett stort antal som har avlidit helt enkelt, och det är ju fruktansvärt. Det är någonting som vi alla lider med, tror jag, att vi inte har kunnat hjälpa dem, och det är ju en ganska, ska inte säga, men det är tråkigt. Det är helt enkelt bara fruktansvärt tråkigt.
Sweden, which was originally lax in restrictions, has currently seen a huge surge in COVID cases and deaths and has moved towards tougher restrictions, lockdowns, and other measures to attempt to contain the spread of the virus. In other area news, Chicago's Mayor Lightfoot has received both praise and criticism this week over several policies and new information coming out on her actions. On Tuesday, Lightfoot and the City Council received praise by some for easing the city's longtime ban on basement, attic, and coach house apartments. Despite the fact that people would still rent out these spaces in many areas, the action was essentially illegal and could result in landlords paying thousands in fines. Advocates of the removal have cited the need for additional affordable housing in Chicago and the ability for longtime homeowners to earn rental income. Opponents have stated that the zoning would disrupt neighborhoods that are mostly zoned for single-family needs. A pilot of the ban listing was announced for several areas, including the majority of the 10th Ward on Chicago's southeast side. An older proposed map is provided in the figure that did not include parts of South Chicago west of Commercial or South Shore. It is uncertain what the final approved boundaries will be for the pilot. A copy of the ordinance can be found at the link on the right. On Wednesday, Lightfoot finally followed through on a campaign promise to eliminate exemptions from Chicago's Welcoming City Ordinance. The ordinance is designed to limit Chicago police cooperation with federal immigration agents to encourage immigrants to feel safe when contacting or cooperating with law enforcement officers. Often, immigrants, especially those who are undocumented, fear interacting with police officers because of threats of deportation. Indeed, nationally, many immigrants who have called the police to report crimes have found themselves facing deportation. The Chicago ordinance still allowed several loopholes that allowed officers to stop, detain, and report immigrants. Although several of the exceptions could be used to target known criminals, immigration rights activists cited their ability to be abused and challenges with knowing in which cases it could be safe for immigrants to report crimes on. Lightfoot was previously criticized for what some described as holding the exceptions hostage in order to secure votes for her budget. Lightfoot also received criticism during the week after the city response to a botched police raid that occurred in February 2019. During the incident, police broke into the home of a hospital social worker by mistake. The video released on Thursday showed 50-year-old Anjanette Young naked and distraught as police threatened her at gunpoint. While one of the officers eventually covered the woman, Young can be heard multiple times telling officers they have the wrong home and nobody else is there. Young attempted to file a Freedom of Information Act request for the video following the incident, but the Chicago Police Department denied her request. CPD was eventually forced to turn over the video following a lawsuit that Young filed. However, CPD also attempted to stop news stations, including CBS News, from broadcasting the report during the week by filing an emergency motion in federal court. In a report, CBS reporters uncovered that police failed to do basic checks to confirm whether the address they had was correct before getting the warrant approved. The search warrant was pushed by CPD solely based on a confidential informant's word he saw a 23-year-old wanted felon at the location. Lightfoot denied personally knowing about the incident during a televised apology in which she asked to meet Young in person. In other CPD news, the president of Chicago's Fraternal Order of Police is facing firing after the recommendations from the city's police disciplinary panel. 52-year-old John Catanzara was accused by a panel of making several racist social media posts. In one of the posts, Catanzara wrote Muslims were, quote, savages, they all deserve a bullet. In other posts he was shown making political statements in a CPD uniform, which is a violation of department rules. Catanzara, who is a 25-year veteran, won a victory over incumbent Kevin Graham in May to become the union leader. He became an outspoken critic of the Chicago mayor and CPD. However, he himself also has a troubled past. Earlier in the year, he was stripped of his powers after he filed a report against former CPD Superintendent Eddie Johnson when Johnson participated in a peaceful protest with anti-violence activist and Reverend Michael Fledger. Catanzara, who has over 50 misconduct complaints, was also previously recommended for firing for working as a security guard while on medical leave from CPD. As a result of his past, Chief Administrator of Chicago Civilian Office of Police Accountability, Sidney Roberts, previously recommended his firing. However, Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown objected and recommended only a suspension. Andrea Zopp, a member of the Chicago Police Board randomly selected to review the case, decided on Friday that the police board should go forward with the hearing about Catanzara and his role with CPD. In other local news over the week, residents raised concerns over CPD response times in and around South Chicago following an attempted break-in by the man pictured on the right. While the details are still unclear, a man in South Chicago reported a man breaking into his home while his daughter was home. According to the man, police took over 20 minutes to respond to their calls to 911. Incidents of lengthy police response times are not uncommon on Chicago's southeast side. While the average response time has been reported as about 5 minutes for calls in downtown Chicago, data released by CPS2 News shows that times can average about 7 minutes for the Bush and Hegewisch, with response times being over 6 minutes for South Chicago and South Deering, while nearing 6 for the east side. Disparities in police response times have caused some groups, including the American Civil Liberties Union and Better Government Association, to file complaints against the Chicago police. And finally, throughout the week, several local residents and groups across the political spectrum were bringing in the holidays by offering holiday cheer to those in need. We'd like to acknowledge several of them and their work. First, a local group on Chicago's southeast side, known as the Bridges Puentes Collective, provided holiday care packages to South Chicago residents at Bowen High School on Sunday. The group has been raising donations to provide gifts to needy families on Chicago's southeast side. The group plans on delivering gifts to the homes of local residents on Wednesday, December 23rd. The group has been active in local area organizing, actions, and activism. On Saturday, Commander Rubio and officers from Chicago's 4th District partnered with local residents to deliver presents and gifts to local area residents. The 4th District Police hosts an annual toy drive every year. A sleigh built by Officer Salvador was pulled by a police vehicle during the event. An officer dressed as Santa distributed gifts donated by local businesses to many local needy families. On Saturday, the Chicago chapter of the Brown Beret National Organization passed out blankets, coats, hats, gloves, and other clothes and items, including toiletries, at 6 different locations to people living on Chicago streets. The activists, that included local East Side leader Colonel Anthony Martinez, visited different locations, including 18th and Blue Island, along with Chicago's 10th City, to provide needed gifts to homeless residents. Thank you for joining us for this week in review. We wish you all happy holidays. Peace.
December 24th on Hollis Ave at the dark, when I seen a man chilling with his dog at the park. I approached him very slowly with my heart full of fear, looked at his dog